This is the Seahawkers Podcast, episode 451. I'm Brandon Schultz, and I am joined by my good buddy, Adam Emmert. Adam, our Seahawks are coming off a victory over the dirty San Francisco 49ers, and it's feeling so good.
Damn, does it feel good. It really does. You know, after losing 6 times in a row, Geno never having beat the Niners, to come out and watch Mike McDonald like truly de-pants Kyle Shanahan in that game was just glorious.
The other glorious part about it, see, this is what I was looking forward to the first time that we played the Niners, because when the Seahawks and Niners faced off last time, they were kind of in a little bit of a tailspin. But with the win over the Seahawks, they get another win, and they're feeling good as a fan base. But now we finally got to smack them down, and that's what I wanted all those weeks ago, because if you are a Seahawks fan and you haven't been reveling in some of 49ers media this week, whether it's tuning in to 49ers podcasters, tuning into 49ers sports radio, this is what I was waiting for and have been enjoying all week.
The most fun narrative from listening to 49er Land a little bit was listening to some of the 49er shows coming into this game, just to kind of get their perspective on where they're coming from and things like that. And the narrative on many of the different shows was, hey, you beat the Seahawks here, you put them out of the misery, you don't have to worry about them for the rest of the year, you're end their season, let's take them out, we're tired of these people, like just get the win and send the Seahawks home for the year. And what's extra like fun about that, and totally the Schadenfreude's off the scale about this, is not only did we really make their chances of making the playoffs really low by losing that game, but we may have just ended this era of 49er football in this little window that they had to try to win a Super Bowl that they completely failed at. And so not just they wanted to end our season, we ended their era that day on Sunday. And I take a great deal of joy out of that.
Everybody's questioning Kyle Shanahan and whether he is even able to coach, which is something that I feel like should have been the conversation, I don't know, all offseason after he had lost another Super Bowl. And so now people are starting to realize it. And the guy who helped make that happen, Adam, is Eugene Cyril Smith, because it was his game-winning touchdown that I think made a lot of 49ers fans' heads explode, because going into this game, I think they took it for granted. Like, okay, it's Geno Smith, the guy, because every time as 49ers fans watching the Seahawks and Geno Smith, Geno's come out and he's kind of stunk it up, and he's kind of confirmed our priors of what we think of Geno Smith, because this is the only version of Geno Smith that we've seen with the Seahawks. And so for him to get the ball with under 2 minutes to go, drive down the field, and then Adam, run it in for the game-winning score. Oh, you know that Steve Rabel on Seattle Sports Radio was feeling it too.
Geno gets him back to the line of scrimmage, 22-21, gets the snap, looks, steps up, gonna run, 10, 5, Geno, touchdown, Seahawks! Holy catfish! Geno Smith runs left side, can't find anybody open from 13 out, 12 seconds left, and the Seahawks take the lead, 19-17. Are you kidding me? No quit in this bunch.
It has like the quadfecta of great Seahawks calls by Steve Rabel. It has an "Are you kidding me?" It has a voice crack. It has a Wyman chuckle in the background, and it has the catfish.
It's got it all, man, including a victory over the Dirty Niners. Look, Geno really did have the 2 great scrambles on that drive. He kept the drive alive earlier. I believe it was 3rd and 12. Maybe it was 2nd and 12 that he had his first scramble on and picked that up. And he made Leonard Floyd look silly on the outside, too. He wasn't even being blocked. He was just standing out there, and Geno just ran around him. It was hilarious. It was such a huge, all of this game, that final drive, everything that went into this, and to come away with the victory in Santa Clara, this is a massive win for this franchise and a young coaching staff. I really do believe that this is the win that you get. You've heard it from the players about buy-in and, oh, yeah, we're all in, da-da-da-da-da. But then you get this win. And when each and every one steps to the mic, whether it's Geno or JSN or whoever, and when I talk, like, you feel like the buy-in really occurred that day with the victory over the Niners. I think this is maybe going to go down as one of the most important victories for Mike Macdonald as the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, because this is going to be the first big one that galvanizes this team in his image. And I think that's pretty exciting.
And I think it's because of that it helps answer some of those questions about what we were feeling coming out of the bye week with the moves and Connor Williams being gone and Tyrell Dotson being gone. And then, to hear the reaction of some of the players afterward, it felt more like those were concerted moves. And whether or not, it was speculation of, were they going to cut these guys? And well, in fact, they did cut Dotson, but were they going to cut Williams too? And he just decided to retire. We heard from Geno Smith in one of the interviews with Richard Sherman say it was a mental health thing, which, who knows? But with the win, it helped make it feel like it was an effort rather than circumstance.
It really does pull the season out of the chaos that had been the last couple of weeks and losing 5 of the last 6. And then watching the defense go against McVay the previous week and have success and look good against the run and keep them in it that entire game all the way, going into overtime. And then to come out and perform as they did against the Niners, keeping CMC in check, eliminating the wide zone stuff. Like, just hats off to the ends in this game. Hey, whether that's Mafe or Hall, or let's give Draymond a shout out here. That's somebody I did not mention in the post-game show, and going back and rewatching, he had a nice game. That's one of his best games as a Seahawk so far. Now it's exciting to see, but them being able to set the edge and let everybody else rally up, to the tune of, Ernest Jones and Tyrese Knight, who played well. Like, that's huge. We haven't been able to do that in years.
The only thing that gives me a little bit of pause is that it did come down to that final drive, and you did need all those plays to happen from Geno. You needed to get the ball back for one with just, a little over 2 minutes left to go. And it took quite a bit. I mean, you had multiple third downs. You had a 2nd and 13, the one that you talked about, Geno scrambling for 16 yards and picking up the first down. But you had a 3rd and 5 that JSN helped convert. You had a 3rd and 3 that JSN also helped convert. Jaxon Smith-Njigba on that final drive, Adam, he was one of Geno's go-to guys. And whether it was them maybe trying to take away DK in those moments, or whether it was just Jackson finding a way to get open and Geno finding him and having some of that chemistry built up, I was really happy to see that.
The most exciting thing about this game was watching the defense stack performances, especially against the run. The second most exciting thing about this game is JSN stacking games.
Yeah.
And his emergence from being like, yeah, he's a guy and he's out there and he's making catches and he's not bad.
No,
he's a guy.
Just a couple of weeks ago, we were wondering, okay, 2nd year JSN, yes. Where are you?
Yeah. Yeah. To go from that to really the clear cut number 2 in kind of moving Tyler to the number 3 in his success out of the slot and the way that they're using it downfield a little bit more. And one of the things I like about the way that they're giving him touches and screens in that area of the field is that they have him kind of running from the outside to the inside and doing the middle tunnel screens, which he had a big one of those late in the game as well. The critical drops have seemed to go away with JSN here over the last couple of weeks. And Clinton had texted us some stat about, DK being the primary first read receiver. I don't remember the percentages, but it was high in the first half. And then in the second half, it switched to JSN. And I think that does show that, one, teams really do fear DK. And 2, that Grubb made a nice adjustment at halftime offensively when it came to who they're trying to use in attacking the San Francisco secondary.
And it's those types of adjustments that are going to be critical for the offense going forward, especially in these tight games. It was because you didn't get as many drives in this game as you saw with Grubb offenses in previous games. And so whether that was an attempt, even getting under center, like just a little bit more, I went back and checked because I was curious after breaking down the other games.
Yeah.
19 of 63. So it wasn't a tremendous shift, but here's the weird thing is that when you go from being under center for 4 out of 60 plays to 19 out of 60 plays, it does feel pretty drastic.
Yeah, it does. I don't know how you got to 19. I got to 17.
Was it 17 or?
But
I
that's
might have
okay.
mistyped. Okay.
Yeah, but here's the thing. So 17 of them under center, and then you've got another, according to my count, 38 in shotgun. So more than double in the gun. And then you start to break that down a little bit more. And I don't know if you want to get into offensive stuff now, or we want to kind of, praise the defense some more and be in positive land a little bit. But for me personally, I said this after the game, that I like some of the plays and the concepts within the plays, but the plays don't link up and make a lot of sense one to the next, in one that looks like one thing, but then turns into another later in the game.
Right.
It always seems like what you see is what you get. And there's not a big connection in terms of scheme overall. And one of the things that stands out big in this game, I'm gonna have you guess on this, Brandon.
Okay.
When the team was under center, what is the percentage of the time that they ran the football?
I think it was like 80%.
74%.
See, it was close.
74%. So that's what they call a tell in the NFL. Like if you line up under center and you're going to hand it off every single time or 3/4 of the time, if you're a defensive lineman or a linebacker, it takes all the guesswork out of it, right? You know what you're doing. Yeah. You're going to gamble on that 75% every single time. Those are fantastic odds. And then you get into the gun, and according to my count, they pass the ball 85% of the time out of the gun.
Right.
Now, that's according to my count. Could be off a little bit one way or the other, but it gives you an idea. So the big problem to me is that, one, okay, he's getting under center a little bit more. Okay, cool. I like that.
Mm-hmm.
The run pass ratio was a little closer, 36-23. So according to my count here, but maybe it's a little different on other platforms here. But at the end of the day, like, fine, you're getting the run pass ratio a little closer. But then when you're doing the runs, if they're all coming out of just a simple tell of whether or not Geno is under center, and all the passes are when Geno's standing, 5 yards back, receiving the snap, like you might as well just tell them, like, when you walk up to the line of scrimmage, hey boys, passing this down, or hey boys, running this down. And that really doesn't help the running game. And that's super frustrating to me.
No. And I think where you even saw a little bit of the diversity was early on in the game. When you go back and you look at where it kind of shifted in the third quarter, I do have 19. And in the third quarter,
I have 19 as well now.
Okay.
In under center.
Yeah. 19 under
5
center.
passes, 14 runs. Yep. Yeah. Okay. So
K9 run, Geno sack on, that was on a 1st and 10. So they probably tried to pass there. Run, touchdown. How about Jalen Sandell in the backfield there, lining up as fullback? That was a fun play.
It worked, I guess. Yeah.
It did work. In the second half, every time they lined up under center, except for one where Geno got sacked, was a run play.
So game long, when they were under center, they ran the ball 14 times. for an average of about 3.7 per play.
Yeah.
That's nice. That's nice. Like, you run it 3 straight times on average,
Sure.
You're picking up a first down. 3.7 yards per play and a touchdown. Now, they only passed it 5 times for an average of 0 yards. They went for 0, an incomplete, 7 yards, incomplete, sack for -7, another incomplete. And my problem is like, do it more. Do it more out of under center. It doesn't even have to be play action.
Yeah.
But give yourself a chance, because there's a stretch in the middle of the game when they're passing out of the shotgun that they go -7 yards, 5 yards, 0 yards, -3 yards, 7 yards, 0 yards, -9 yards. They didn't just give up on the, passing game out of the gun after that stretch.
Right.
They didn't do that. So why do you give up on it out of the under center formation? I don't quite understand. And then you compound the problem of the tell of being under center or in the gun by running the ball primarily on first down, a little bit more on, or the most on first, a little bit less on second, and almost none on third or fourth. Right. So at the end of the day, like, you give them a tell of QB's under center. Oh, and it's first down. Like, this is 100% chance. Like, Ken Walker's coming downhill. And we keep hearing, well, they can't run the ball because of the offensive line. They can't do it. It's not that they won't. It's that they can't. That's what I hear from a lot of fans. Well, the fact of the matter is even with all these crap-ass tells from this terrible design, they're still averaging 3.7 yards, scored a touchdown. Can you imagine how good it would be if you broke these tendencies a little bit?
Right.
They were able to do it.
Well, and it speaks to, I think, the capabilities of K9, right? Ken Walker, he has that ability of going to a hole. And it's almost like some of the runs that we've seen are designed that way, to go one way and then have that cutback for him.
Yeah.
And that seems to be, I don't know, just where those types of runs are where he has best, is where he can make those types of decisions. And we saw it a little bit in this game. And yeah, I think he's going, because unless we can find an offensive line that can open up big holes for Charbonnet, then it's going to be a little bit of a struggle.
Who? I mean, it's totally time to have the Zach Charbonnet discussion. Bench his ass. I want to see Kenny McIntosh.
What is it going to take for Kenny McIntosh to, I don't know, get like 2 or 3 snaps when Kenneth Walker needs some rest?
I don't know. Did Kenny McIntosh make a pass at like Grubbs or McDonald's wife or something? Like, what is going on here? Because this makes no sense. I said this in the post game show, believe it wholeheartedly. Every single snap that goes to Zach Charbonnet, you might as well light on fire. It's a wasted snap.
I still have a little bit of hope for Zach. I don't want to be.
How?
I think there
is he going to suddenly get faster?
I think
stronger,
there's just some situations that you might be okay with having him in there, like for when K9 actually needs rest.
Yeah, that's what Kenny McIntosh is for.
I do worry a little bit more about Kenny McIntosh's ability to pass block, but it's not like, it's not like Charbonnet
wasn't good in this game.
No, he wasn't great. I can't think of a time well, he was only in for 2 pass block snaps total on the day, and one of them he was no help on.
No, he left Abe out to dry.
Yeah. We went back and we watched that. Clinton and he brought it up in 3 and 3 out. And there was a stunt to the left that he had his eye on that I think was distracting him. And I think his primary responsibility was to make sure Bosa didn't get inside of Abe Lucas.
You know what his primary responsibility is to make sure that Nick Bosa doesn't get home.
Yeah.
Like, that's your primary responsibility. And okay, so if he was distracted by some stunt to the left or whatever, fantastic, I guess. And then he was paralyzed by fear, did nothing.
And that ultimately ended up being the problem, is that he ended up being more in the way, so Geno had nowhere to escape the pressure.
No. And it was really, really frustrating to watch. But I guess what we have to take from the offense is that there are some baby steps. Like, they are at least getting under center a little bit more. They're running the ball a little bit more.
Jason's looking good.
They had a whopping 3 play action plays out of under center. 3.
Was 3?
3. Brandon, I this is another little fun quiz for you. This is according to NFL Pro.
Under center
all
play.
Season long.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Under center play action. How many total snaps do you think we've seen?
I'm going to say 9.
It's a little higher than that.
Okay.
But 27.
All right. 27 all season, so 3 per game on average.
That's abysmal.
That's wild.
That's so bad.
So it was the incomplete pass to DK Metcalf, which that was a play that I feel like should have worked because you had D Winters on Metcalf. That should have been a mismatch, but whether it was underthrown or what exactly happened on that play? Because DK ended up having to go over the top of Winters to try and catch that.
I don't recall. I'd have to go back and rewatch it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then just another little short pass to Barner. I think that was a Barner drop.
Yep.
And then Geno getting sacked, which was the single pass under center in the second half.
Exactly. Like, how to build your offense once you get, your formations and stuff fairly balanced, and, you run pass out of the different formations fairly balanced. It's not like they have to go, 50-50 under center run pass. Like, even if you get, closer to 60-40, like, okay. Same vice versa with the shotgun. Like, once you get that figured out, like, which is as obvious as the day is long, like some dumbass in a shed out in the middle of the mountains, like, can see that, and Ryan Grubb hasn't figured that out yet. Like, this is basic 10,000 foot view of the offense. Like, once he gets that fixed, then how to marry that all together and how to make the motions look the same and the sets look the same from the offensive line and, all that stuff, that's above my pay grade. I don't know how to do that. That's why I'm not an NFL head coach or an OC. But, like, we're not even getting the basics.
That Nick Bosa sack too. That was, they had Pharaoh Brown lined up next to Jarrell to give him help. Jarrell, like, he plays patty cake with Bosa for like 2 seconds, and then Bosa just blows right by him and gets to Geno. And as much stink that Niners fans are making about, we'd only had Bosa half the game and the Seahawks scored all their points while Bosa was off of the field.
Factually incorrect. That is factually incorrect.
That, not having Abe in there was a huge impact for the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think that was the first drive in the second half that Jarrell came out, or maybe it was the second one.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of a sudden you're starting to wonder about Abe, and I want to talk a lot more about Abe here in a minute too, because just wow, like, what a difference an Abe makes. Just really excited about that. But yeah, Niners fans, and I've heard this narrative about 1,000 times now. Oh, well, they scored all the points after Nick Bosa went out. Well, that's not true. Nick Bosa was in the game when they kicked 2 long field goals.
Right. But he wasn't on the field when they were kicking the field goals. So those points, I guess, don't count.
Sure. Yeah. He was, apparently the defense that was supposed to stop him from getting into field goal range when Bosa was out there. That doesn't count.
No, see, that's the wiggle word that they use, though. All the points were scored when Bosa was off the field. So because he doesn't line up on field goal team, I guess that's how they get around that.
Garbage narrative for a garbage fan base that's digesting a garbage season after another garbage loss.
Hey, this loss was tough on them, and
good.
I'm here to enjoy it.
I'm here for it, buddy. Yeah.
Yeah, well, let's talk a little bit about Abe Lucas on the field for 42 of the 60 offensive snaps that counted. And yeah, in terms of grade wise, even PFF recognized that he graded out well. One of the top 3 guys for the Seahawks, pass block, run block, both. We have a lineman that can do both, Adam.
We can, and we do, and I love it. The other part of the whole thing of, well, they scored all their points after Bosa went out, blah, 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 is did you watch Bosa and Abe all game? Because it's not like Bosa was lighting him up and they were having a massive problem with Bosa.
No.
Like Abe was doing work out there on Bosa, having not played for almost a calendar year and really held his own there. So that's an impressive performance for Abe Lucas coming out the gate here. And then to hear that he seems to come out of the game fine and while sore, doing okay, like that's a massive piece of encouraging news.
Yeah, I listened to his interview on Seattle Sports, and the first question they asked him was, "How you doing?" And his first response was, "I'm sore."
Yeah. Abe Lucas, listen to the interview, man. He is my favorite Seahawk. And I love the way that he plays. He's mean, he's aggressive, and just his variation in the way that he attacks DNs with his pass sets. You know, it's a thing of beauty, man. It's a thing of beauty. And so now, instead of having 3 dumpster fire positions on the offensive line, you now have 1 fewer. And I would argue 2 fewer, Brandon, after Olu's performance.
Yeah, Oluwatimi. Let's just compare stat lines a little bit, because you have Abe Lucas in the game. He allowed 1 sack. He allowed 2 pressures in 29 passing snaps. You have Mike Jarrell, who was out there for 10 passing snaps, gave up 1 sack and 2 pressures. So the exact same stat line with 1/3 fewer snaps on the field. And then you've got Oluwatimi on the field for 39 snaps, gave up 1 hurry, 1 pressure, and otherwise perfect on the day in his passing snaps.
First run of the game, first play of the game, first snap. Olu drives his dude
to the
all
ground,
the way to the left. It just buries him. I was like, oh, okay. I see you, buddy. And he was like that all day. It is a massive upgrade, and especially because he had 0 errant snaps. And it just, what an awesome day for Olu. It's exciting to now have 2 of those 3 dumpster fire positions figured out. Because I think the sack that they're killing Abe on, like the sack that he gave up, was Bosa was coming around the edge. Bradford gets beat awfully. Like, bad,
it was Tomlinson
bad.
that got beat on the stunt.
Okay, then it must be a different snap that they're killing.
Because they gave that Nick Bosa sack on the one play that we already talked about with Charbonnet on the field. As he came around the edge, Charbonnet was there. They didn't count that as a sack.
That was early in the game. Okay, yeah. So the one I'm thinking of was later in the game that they didn't count as a sack then, which is good because Bradford fucked that whole thing up. And it wasn't on Abe. Yeah.
Oh, I think there was maybe a half sack. Was it one that was shared by, was it Bosa and, the Yahoo guy?
Yeah. I think it was.
Yeah, because he had a sack and a half on the day.
It's even a blind squirrel, man. Yeah.
I told you that dude.
That dude would do not much that affected the game in any way. Yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah, Leonard Floyd. He didn't do too much, but he did. He actually led the team in tackles, led the team in pressures, not tackles.
If you say so.
They have him down as having 6 pressures.
That's an interesting way to count pressures. It seems like to me.
All right. So Oluwatimi, the question it does bring up for me though, what did they see in the offseason that had them thinking there's no way Oluwatimi can start and that we have to bring in Connor Williams? Because that's what it felt like was what happened.
It totally feels like what happened. Like, okay, now Nick Harris, you're gone. We'll see you. We're not going to bring Evan Brown back, even though he had a fine enough season. And okay, Olu, your show. And then right before the season, no, we'll bring in a dude with recovering from a knee, and apparently whose head is totally in the wrong space. Like, I wish him the best. I hope he gets it figured out. If it really is, some sort of mental health issue, like, damn, man, like that sucks. And I'm rooting for him. But in terms of his play on the field, it was clear that he wasn't locked in. And how that looked better than Olu in practice. Like, does somebody need to take Scott Huff to an eye examination, like to a Pearl Vision Center in the Tacoma Mall?
Yeah.
Like, what are we doing?
Yeah. Why the change didn't get made sooner? Why the change had to happen in the preseason? It's a mystery to me.
It will continue to be. This whole offense is a mystery to me. It really is. Like, I can see the genius in, again, individual plays, but the overarching structure of it, like, is just incoherent and disjointed.
I still have more hope than if we were to ask Shane Walden to return. Come on.
It's about equal to me.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Him failing in Seattle and then failing in Chicago, it doesn't give me a lot of hope. But, we have our defense to talk about, Adam.
Yeah. Oh, man. And Ernest Jones and Tyrese Knight, like that combination back there, filling in behind, again, another excellent day by the boys up front. It was a pleasure to watch in comparison to the last couple of years for the Seahawks.
Well, and you called out a couple of the other guys after the game as well. I mean, Devin Witherspoon all over the field. You had Kobe Bryant locking it down as a free safety. And what did he give up in terms of, I think, one catch all day for 5 yards? And so Kobe Bryant stringing together some games just in time for Wallace to be coming back here, I suppose. But one of the things going back, no, not Kayvon Wallace, Jenkins is coming back.
Yeah.
One of the things looking at the stats after the game, and I, early on in this game, there was one catch that they gave up for 22 yards, and then going back and really digging into it, that was the longest play of the entire day. We talked about it going in, Adam. We wanted to see them limit the explosives, and limit the explosives they did, because their 5 longest plays were for 12 yards, 2 for 13, 1 for 14, and 1 for 22.
And that was an amazing effort, because thinking back to the first matchup against the Niners, the majority of their points were all big play points. And then we also know that the Niners are bad in the red zone offensively. So if you can keep them from scoring those touchdowns, from explosive distance,
right,
then all of a sudden you have a fighting chance. And that was cool. Their entire offense was Purdy scrambles and 3rd and Juwan.
Right.
And that was it.
That was it. And holding Boye Mafe on the Purdy touchdown run so he could get into the end zone.
Yeah, they were doing a fair amount of that holding thing. You'd mentioned Kobe a little earlier, and they said gave up one catch. Oh, is that the one on the final offensive snap for the Niners where it's 3rd and 11, and they try to go to Juwan again, and Kobe bulldogs him basically out of bounds and stops the drive to give Geno and the offense a chance with a couple minutes left?
Oh, yeah, that was it. That was the one.
Yeah, that was a heck of a play, man. Kobe's been my whipping boy for like two seasons now.
Since he's joined the league.
Yeah, pretty much. And to see him have success at safety, like tip of the cap, man. Hard work, doing the job. And the idea that Jenkins is coming back, okay, that's fine. But I think Kobe Bryant's won this job at this point.
I would be okay with it. And I think one of the things that has helped out Kobe a lot is that I think what we saw with him at corner is that he didn't quite have the athleticism to play corner at the NFL level that like he could do it at college, and he was fine, which led him to be drafted. But I think because he is such a smart player too, it's what's allowed him then to pick up the safety spot and still have that athleticism, because I think you see him going for the peanut punch too on so many plays. Like, for him to be able to know where he needs to be, and then also have that ability to make the tackle, try and force turnovers. I think that's going to be something beneficial that we're going to want on the field here going forward.
Absolutely. I don't see any reason to take him off the field right now. I mean, I didn't see anything out of Jenkins that was far and away better than what Kobe's putting out there. In fact, I would give Kobe the edge here. So great game for him. Julian Love had a couple really nice plays coming up in filling the run assignments, especially out on the perimeter. And then Ty Okada in for a bit. Like, who saw that coming? I certainly didn't.
Yeah, and the play where he allows Purdy to get outside and jumps up in the air, and Purdy's able to get the first down. And not a good look for our Montana college players, Adam.
No, not a good look. When he did jump like that for the pump fake, that was ridiculous. Like, there's no reason for you to do that. I scared the hell out of the dog. Like, I did.
Purdy's 3 or 4 yards already beyond the line of scrimmage.
Yeah. Because he had him dead to rights.
I know.
Just don't lose your feet.
Oh, man. Yeah, that is pretty impressive. It was that 3rd and 11 where Kobe Bryant got him to go out of bounds.
He's the only one to stop a 3rd and 11 to Jawan Jennings the whole game. Like, how many 3rd and 11s did frickin' Jawan Jennings pick up?
My gosh. Yeah, like you said, he was their entire offense. They even went to him on first down a couple times just to throw us off.
Well, the good news for the Niners is that they were missing Kittle, and that's really going to fix it all. So
not to mention the fact that Debo had nothing. Pearsall didn't do anything. Juszczyk, who I feel like catches passes out of the backfield all the time against the Seahawks, he didn't do anything. So, yeah, that was fun to see.
And CMC didn't do anything huge, right?
Right.
Just kind of average running back stuff.
The other thing about that, the fact that they used him so much and didn't use Jordan Mason at all.
Oh, thank God.
They didn't use Garendo at all.
Yeah. The couple touches Mason got, like, he was a bowling ball.
Yeah. 2 carries for 13 yards.
Yeah.
And McCaffrey didn't need any rest. They were gonna use him all 20 of his attempts, or 19.
It's funny. I mean, Niners land, you listen to some of the shows, man, and like, they all want Kyle gone. They want Debo gone because he's got nothing left in the tank, which I think they're kind of right about that. He doesn't get any separation when he's running routes. Like, all he can do is the gadget stuff. And
none of their guys get separation though. And that was, I didn't know whether or not that was our defense or their dudes, but I mean, Jawan, he doesn't get separation, but he's just so big that he's like, Witherspoon had great coverage on him on every single time that they went to him. It's just that he bodied out Witherspoon and was able to power through the catch, even though it was great coverage.
100%. He's a big, powerful possession receiver. He's definitely not getting a lot of separation. Pearsall doesn't seem to be that guy. And then, I mean, the rest of their scrubs, like, who cares? And they all cry about Ayuk not being in there either. But again, as a Seattle fan, and maybe this is how they view Geno, like, every time I see Brandon Ayuk, like, not impressed. Like, there's not a lot there. He's not a number 1 receiver. I heard somebody on one of these shows talk about Ayuk as being a top 15 receiver. I think he's probably like closer to the 32nd to 45th best receiver, somewhere in there.
Sure. Well, maybe on the Jaguars, he would beat out Christian Kirk.
Again, low bar. Yeah.
I'm just saying, if you're judging number 1s based on would he be the first wide receiver on a team in the league, then maybe that's where it would fall. Maybe. Well, it was a good day for our defense. It was a good day for our Seahawks overall. I'm just continuing to relish in this victory. And after the game, Adam, you said that there were 2 team, or there was one team other than the Niners that you wanted to see our Seahawks beat. You didn't specify. I thought I'd offer you an opportunity to clarify yourself.
Yeah, they reside at a stadium south of Seattle. They have 4 fans. Their coach looks like a hair gel commercial, a walking hair gel commercial. And their quarterback is 96 years old, and it's all being held together by bubble gum and, string. And that is the motherfuck Rams. I want to beat them so bad after that near miss up in Seattle. Like, they should have had that game. And now with this win over the Niners, you're looking at this upcoming schedule with the Cardinals coming up to our house. You see them again in the 2 weeks past that. Rams late in the season. You're sitting there thinking to yourself, as much as I thought this team was dead. Like, there's a chance that they get into the playoffs, and it's better than the Niners.
It's funny. Well, it's funny when you hear some of those percentages, because I still think that the Niners, according to whatever the stat nerds are that have the percentages of playoff, I think they still have the Niners ahead of the Seahawks for some reason. I don't know why.
Have they seen their schedule?
Their schedule's tough. I think it just has solely to do with their past performance as opposed to so much this year. And
I don't think that's how stats work.
I don't know if that's how it is either, but yeah, they might also be going, because one of the things I also heard listening to a lot of Niners talk this last week is just how much talent. They point to the fact that in terms of PFF ranking and all their players, they have a top 5 roster in the league. And so, like, all their players are performing really well in terms of how they're showing up on tape. But and this was the condemnation of Kyle Shanahan, is that he's not getting what he needs out of his players then to, you want your coach to get more out of the sum of its parts. And the Niners are getting far, far less. And that's the indictment on Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, and it seems to be a relatively obvious answer as to why that is. And to me, it all boils down to, is there any player on that team that feels like they're playing for Kyle Shanahan? Like, right. I feel like he's entered Cardinals Bruce Arians zone, where the excuses and the, throw everybody else under the bus, it's never his fault kind of thing. He's the genius in the room. Everybody else can't keep up. If you ask him a critical question, he turns into a mean, nasty person for like no reason. Can't take any sort of constructive criticism. I wouldn't want to play for that guy. And it doesn't look like any dude out there wants to play for this guy.
Yeah. So that has to be part of it. So when you look at the schedule going forward for our Seahawks, it really does shift on this game, because now you have 2 matchups against the Cardinals. You have the Jets that are a dumpster fire. They just fired their GM this week. You have the Chicago Bears, who are dumpster fire-ish. Got a couple tough games in the Packers, and Vikings could be kind of tough. And then you have that game against the Rams. And it almost feels like the Niners are the team that you can judge now of whether or not you're a good team or a bad team, because they haven't yet beat a team with a winning record.
That's true. And they've lost to all 3 NFC West teams already this year. And that's an indictment on them, which is interesting thinking about us playing the Cardinals next week. And this game really did feel like, well, they kind of have to win this one if there's going to be any sort of chance. Doesn't feel likely, but we'll see. And then the Hawks come out and do what they did and get everybody hyped up. I don't know that this Cardinals game, this particular one, is that must-win game, because they have 2 bites at the cake here over the next 3 weeks.
It's must-win-ish, because it's a game at home, and you haven't, what have you done at home this season? You won the first game against the Broncos, you won against the Dolphins, and you've gone winless at home since. And for you to have any kind of home field advantage, especially if you're going to win the NFC West and then expect to continue to use that home field advantage in the playoffs, then I feel like it is.
I could see that. And I mean, I guess if they didn't have the second game coming up, I'd feel a little bit more must-winny. But yeah, to kind of get the home thing going and get that monkey off their back, now that they took the Niner monkey off their back, it's exciting to think about what could be over the next couple of weeks, especially with the Jets sandwich between there. I mean, shoot, they go 2-1 in this little stretch here. And, all of a sudden you're like, 3 of the last, however, that would be 3 of the last 5. That feels doable.
Well, you go 2-1 over the next 3, and then you go 2-2 over the last 4, and you're at 9-7. And then you're not going to, I think, guarantee your spot in the playoffs going 9-7, but you're probably challenging for the top spot in the division. So, yeah, it's fun to look ahead of that. We can enjoy that, I guess, coming off the win. But I feel like you take an L here and it's just going to turn to pessimism now through the final 6 games. You have to get this win over the Cardinals, and it might be a little bit tougher with the Cardinals coming off a bye week. So they're going to have a little bit of that extra rest coming into this game. Although, Kyler Murray coming off of double XP legacy tokens being released as part of the Call of Duty Chapter 1. that could have served as a distraction for him in the bye week.
Yeah, Kyler and the Call of Duty thing, right? But hasn't that game been out now for like a few weeks? Like, do you think he's gotten it out of his system, or has it been like he's been gaming for a couple weeks now and is really getting into it and now it falls apart?
Well, here's what I'm thinking is that, yes, it's been out for a couple weeks, but you put it off to where when you hit the bye week, it's like, okay, if I could just get to the bye week. And then, like I said, that there was the developers put in they made a mistake and they allowed gamers to have these double XP legacy tokens. It's a big hoopla in the Call of Duty community, because then they released a patch that took away the ability to have those double XP tokens, and so then gamers were up in arms. And I just imagine Kyler Murray was, instead of watching extra tape of the Seahawks coming up for the game, he was dialed in to the message boards and trying to get the developers, called out and get this repatched so they can go back and, because you can get a little bit farther in the game a little bit quicker this way.
So the gamers didn't need no stinking patches? Is that basically what I'm getting out of this?
They didn't want the patches. It got patched, and now they're pissed.
I see. Okay. Well, good luck to all of them in their time with a controller in their hand, and that includes Kyler. But look, you do have to give Kyler some credit for at least this early part of the season where, he's really kind of put it together. He's been more efficient. I think he's doing a better job of getting to his reads further down the line rather than just one read and go. We'll see if the second half of the season fade for somebody like Kyler is him, or if it's Cliff Kingsbury, who him and Jaden now here entering into week 12. Like, I've seen this story before where, a hot start and it starts to fall apart a little bit. So we'll see how it goes.
I am kind of curious how the Seahawks are going to approach this Cardinals defense, though, because if there was a game to primarily lean on the pass a little bit, it would be against these Cardinals quarterbacks. And as much as I want to see them shift back to, getting K9 more involved, especially late in the season, it might not be the worst approach to go after these Cardinals corners.
You can throw the ball on them, and that leans into Seattle's strengths. And with that said, the Seahawks don't show any inkling to, really commit to a running game and a style that looks a little more, we'll say, traditional. So that's not going to happen. I wouldn't have seen that coming, even if the Cardinals were excellent against the pass. I think this is going to be something that does encourage Grubb to lean into, quote unquote, their strengths, and then also kind of some of his worst tendencies. But with that said, there's an absolute chance that the Seahawks, not just a chance, but feel pretty good about their odds against a Cardinals team that, let's face it, they've been pretty decent this year. And they're one game more consistent than the rest of the high variable NFC West, where all the teams have tremendous ups and tremendous downs.
Yeah, and weather-wise, I don't know if it's necessarily going to lean toward the pass-happy approach. With especially, there's a lot of people in Seattle, and you even heard it in the press conference. I'm talking about the people without power in the area, and it sounds like it could still be a little bit nasty in terms of better than 50% chance of rain for the game coming up. It's going to be under 50 degrees, and so it is getting to that time of year where the speed of both teams could be slowed down a little bit. Anything to slow down James Conner is something I'm for, though.
Yeah, because that's where it all starts and stops for this game for me is, can they contain a good Cardinals running game? Their offensive line is moving people. James Conner is still that dude in terms of tough running. He's not a breakaway speed guy by any stretch, but he runs people over and sets the tone. You get that under control, then you're probably in good shape. But the one thing that did worry me a little bit about this is Monday's Mike's press conference. He's talking about the Cardinals run game. He's like, yeah, it's different than all the other ones that we've seen. It's a little more of a gap scheme and pullers and things like that. And then I'm like, well, crap, we just got it together against the stuff that we normally see. I don't want to see new stuff, Not
only having to worry about James Conner, then you also have to worry about a running quarterback like Kyler Murray. And so that's a little bit different than Brock Purdy, who is just going to scramble when the opportunity is there. Like Kyler's a true, he can beat you downfield. You have to worry about him every single play and then potentially carrying the football.
The 8 to 13 yard Purdy scramble, those can turn into 20 to 30 yard scrambles with Kyler running around if he can get out there in space. So it will be interesting to see. I have a hard time buying into this Cardinals team just because of,
history.
Just the history. Yeah. And all the facts that kind of line up with that. But
I think we kind of lucked out a little bit with the bye week because they were building momentum. This was a 2-4 football team after they lost to the Packers back in week 6. And then, they beat the Chargers by 2. They just squeaked by the Dolphins. And then they have their big wins over the Bears and Jets, which, hooray. I mean, those teams are probably ones that you should win big on, especially with where those two teams are at this season. I know I picked the Jets in that stupid game, but, I feel bad about that one. And then they blow out the Jets. So having this bye week, I think it slows down that momentum a little bit. And, we're going to see if our Seahawks are going to be able to take down these dirty Arizona Cardinals.
I would think so. I'm hopeful. If the defense can come out and play a style of run defense that we've seen in the last 2 games, and it matches up, and now we have that third performance to kind of tie it together, because once a coincidence, twice is a trend, 3 times is a you problem. Man, if they're nailing it after 3 times in a row here against another type of scheme, I'm liable to flip-flop about this being a serious team or not.
You're not worried about the LJ Collier revenge game?
I am deathly concerned about it. And really, because I picked against the Seahawks against the Niners, that tarnished my Hawkera. And I'm really concerned that the football gods are going to smite me personally in my disloyalty last week by giving us the LJ Collier revenge game.
Do I need to put you back onto our What If preview show? That way you can repent and potentially get that out of your system then before the matchup with the Cardinals.
Yes.
Okay. Maybe that will have to be done.
We may have to sacrifice a live chicken, something, man. We got to do something.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that this is still weighing heavily on you.
It is. Because it's not often that I take that tact where I'm like, this is just
not going to
not going to happen. And maybe I should do it more often. I mean, hell's bells, they won. So maybe that's what I should
Maybe you need to go on What If and predict a loss.
All right. Cardinals 30, Seahawks 7. Heard it here first.
Oh man.
But I'm not the DCH. I can't be reverse jinxing things.
No,
it's not my lane.
It's not your lane. It's not your superpower. I think maybe you just lucked into this last one.
Maybe
you allowed yourself to be down just by the way things were going coming out of the bye week. And I could see we're all feeling that a little bit.
1 win in 6 games, circus chaos surrounding the team. Like, yeah, I wasn't feeling it.
And it's not like we blew out the Niners. So at the same time, it's great to get the win. But I think that there was definitely a different outcome that was possible against the Niners.
There was. Look, if it weren't for Geno's heroics, and really, I think finally, like, maybe that'll be the game that kind of gets some of the people that don't watch Geno on the regular to like stand up and pay attention here.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Because we'd always seen the worst version of Geno against the Niners, and we saw a normal, like average version of Geno against the Niners this time, and it was enough to win.
I got a text from my buddy James immediately after the game was over, and he says, "This doesn't change my opinion of Geno."
Look, if James wants to just like wake up every morning really wrong about the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, I guess he's welcome to it. But I mean, it's his deal, not mine.
Yeah, well, we can have that conversation here quickly too, because I don't think it's changed. I think that there are like these two dimensions of Geno fans. There's the Geno. There's the people, those of us who are happy with Geno being our quarterback, like Matt Hasselbeck level quarterback, that you can point to the guy and go, yeah, that's my quarterback. Like when you see him interviewed on Richard Sherman's podcast after the game, and he said, you know what? I saw KJ Wright on the sideline and that pissed me off. And I'm like, yeah, that's my quarterback. And then there's the people who go, well, you know, he's fine, but we really need a franchise quarterback. And I don't think unless you have, you know, Josh Allen, Mahomes, dude,
Lamar,
Stroud, Jaden, unless you have one of those handful of guys, that group's going to be content. And
then they're going to be a miserable ass part of the fan base, to be honest. Like at the end of the day, you know how often your franchise gets a top 5 quarterback for 10 years? It's not often. We just came off of it.
Yeah.
Right.
That was the only one. He was the one.
The one.
And the entire Seahawks franchise history.
Yeah. I just
don't get Jim Zorn, kind of average. Dave Craig, a little bit above average. Matt Hasselbeck, a little bit above average.
No, he was solidly above average.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. He flirted in that, you know,
but he had an amazing offensive line, and he had Sean Alexander to like
and Holmgren.
So, you know, he had a lot of help.
He had a lot of help, but every quarterback needs a lot of help. Like that's something that I also think is absolutely insane too. But that people think that, oh no, you just get the quarterback and you just go win championships. Like, yeah, okay, well, ask Bills fans about that, right?
Yeah.
Like, how many have they won? How many have the Bengals won?
Right.
Like, it's not a guarantee of anything.
Look down at the other LA team. They go out and they get Joe Alt, who now they can protect Justin Herbert a little bit. And well, would you look at that? He's almost in an MVP conversation now.
And they run the football, and all of a sudden they're not charging things. Yeah, it's crazy how all that works. The circle of toughness and all of that. It's insane. But yeah, if you're one of the people that's like, Geno just can't possibly be good enough, and I need Josh Allen, Mahomes, you know, top 3 to 5 guy, prepare to be a miserable fan for 20 years. Like what we do know is that if you can play solid football around Geno Smith, like he absolutely can win a Super Bowl. Like there's no doubt about that. Like the level of play is there.
And he has that same little part that Russ had too, where late in the game, he gets the football and you go, okay, I think we could win this game, because he thinks he can win this game. And we've seen it work out for him more than it hasn't.
Absolutely. Now, the flip side of the argument that I do understand is if Geno after the season comes out and says, I want 55 a year.
Right.
No, thank you. I'll go and do something else. But if he says 35, 40, yep.
Sure.
Sign me up. That's a bargain.
I don't think that, well, it depends on the outcome of the season. We'll just have to see what ends up happening, because I think that entire conversation hinges on this team making the playoffs and what they do in the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. No, it's funny. It's just that group of fans, they're the same types of people who are like, when I just win the Powerball, my life will be perfect. It's like, yeah, you could, but let's talk about the odds.
I applaud those people for recognizing that, there is a level of quarterback skill, and sure, Geno isn't in that group, but it's tough, and hopefully we get that guy. I'm there with you. Speaking to that group, like I would love to have a top 5, top 6 quarterback. It would be awesome.
It would be awesome. I don't want to suck hard enough.
Until then, I'm looking at Geno Smith and going, that's my quarterback.
I just don't see a world in which you look at Geno's level of play and be like, you can't get that for another 2-3 years. Just some semblance of offensive coordinator in a run game, and Mike McDonald taking the defense from, rolling dumpster fire to pretty damn good. Mm-hmm. And you're like, nah, I don't want that version of the team. That sounds like a lot of wins and playoff victories and even a chance to win a chip. Hate that. Let's tank and be crappy for 7 years and maybe ruin the quarterback that you get in the draft when you finally get him. Like, if that's the way you want to roll, I guess you can do it. But to me, it's cutting off your nose to spite your face. But whatever.
You still have that ability to find those quarterbacks too. I mean, you look at some of the guys who have slipped. Lamar Jackson slipped to the end of the first round. A guy like Jalen Hurts, who
he's not a franchise quarterback.
He's not a franchise quarterback, but I would bet that same group of people would be okay with that level of play.
Although they must love Geno Smith.
I think because he's younger. I don't know.
Jalen Hurts isn't a quarterback.
He's quarterback enough.
Okay. If the Eagles called right now and said Geno Smith for Jalen Hurts, I'd hang up the fucking phone.
I know, but there's the potential, is what I'm saying, that some of those guys could slip through the cracks too, and you could find yourself a quarterback of the future late in the first round, maybe early in the second, or last part of the third round. That only happens every once in a while.
Every once in a while, but hey, man, I mean, that's where John has made his hay. But at the end of the day, with it, look, if you've got a guy that can identify quarterback talent and make a good prediction about what these guys can be in their first couple of years in the league to at least give you a chance for success, then, you do have a chance to go out and pick Bo Nix late when all the other dumb teams just look at traits instead of quarterbacks. Or, Lamar was a great example of that. Like, I was pounding the table for Lamar. I was pounding the table for Josh Allen. Like, everybody's saying, oh no, Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, and it's on and on and on and on. So you got to have the guy, that's able to identify that.
And there's a lot of bad teams that make bad decisions consistently.
Oh yeah. Hey, I mean, like taking Bryce Young over CJ Stroud. Like, what are we doing?
Right.
Like, I didn't get it, but nobody asked me either. So.
All right. Well, nobody asked me who was going to make this last round of Hall of Fame ballots, but we're going to get there coming up after the break.
All right.
If you're looking for more Seahawks content, make sure you check out For the Hawkra. It's one of our show. Check out For the Hawkra. Got all our shows, Clinton Bonner, Phil Leidick, Wilson Kahn, as we do PNW Prop Stars, 3 in, 3 out, our What If preview show. And you can find all those under the hat of For the Hawkra out on audio on the Believe Podcast Network. And I'm looking forward to some What If preview show this weekend.
It should be a good time. Hey, and if you are on the video side of things, if you watch things or listen to these shows on the video side, all on this channel, all right here on the audio side for the Hawker for a lot of the other shows, and then the flagship and that sort of thing on the Seahawkers podcast channel, and just trying to continue to clear that up for folks.
YouTube.com/Seahawkers podcast, doing a lot of video stuff out there. It was fun this week. We got to bring on a few folks on the invite them on screen for 3 in, 3 out. And we did some live ins and outs. It was a good time.
That is cool, man. I have yet to go back and watch it. Britt and I were watching a movie when it was live, and I haven't gone back and watched it, but it sounded like it was awesome. Yeah. And so I'm excited for that.
One thing that wasn't awesome, Marshawn Lynch not making the list of 25 finalists for this year's Hall of Fame group. I'm not happy about this.
Well, I would have to see the list before I decide whether I'm outraged or not.
You were telling me that there's potentially 25 players that you could see and be okay with making it ahead of Marshawn into the Hall of Fame.
Again, it depends on who those people are. I'd have to see the list.
Hey, we can go through all 25. One of the names,
just rattle them off quick. Yeah,
I'll rattle them off. And maybe I'll stop on the one name that I think we can all be happy with as Seahawks fans for the most part. But the 25 finalists who made it: cornerback Eric Allen, defensive end Jared Allen. Oh, see, this is in alphabetical. So here we go. Tackle Willie Anderson, wide receiver Anquan Boldin, former Seahawks legend guard Jari Evans, tight end Antonio Gates, linebacker James Harrison, safety Rodney Harrison, Torrey Holt, wide receiver for the Dirty Rams, linebacker Luke Kuechly on his first ballot here, quarterback Eli Manning on his first ballot as a semifinalist, linebacker Robert Mathis, wide receiver Steve Smith, linebacker Terrell Suggs, running back Fred Taylor, defensive back Earl Thomas on his first semifinalist ballot, Adam Vinatieri, Hines Ward, running back Ricky Waters, a Seahawks legend there, Reggie Wayne, tackle Richmond Webb, defensive tackle Vince Wilfork, guard Steve Wisniewski. Gosh, he's only been a semifinalist twice. Safety Darren Woodson, and guard Marshall Yanda.
Wow, Yanda's already ready for the Hall of Fame. That's kind of wild to think about.
Yeah, that was he was along with Earl, along with Eli, and a couple of others that I mentioned, Luke Kuechly. Oh, and Terrell Suggs.
Okay, Marshawn over Eric Allen. Nice career. Very good player. I'm not sure he's a Hall of Fame guy. He never really was for me. Marshawn definitely over him. Anquan Boldin. Lots to love about Anquan Boldin's game. Fantastic player. To me, not a Hall of Famer. Like, close, but not a Hall of Famer. Marshawn, a better player. There was a third name on here, too. Maybe it was just, the idea. I mean, this isn't the first time for Ricky. It sounds like Ricky Waters has been, available.
He's been up there 5 times, or this is his 5th time.
Then I'd say leave Marshawn off, let Ricky have his chance for this year. But those are the names that really stick out at me where I'm like, yeah, no. But a lot of those other dudes, you have a hard time, including Earl, making a case to me that, like, they shouldn't be on there and Marshawn should.
Oh, yeah. And Earl is absolutely going to be in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if he's going to make it first ballot, but whether it's second or third, like, I kind of feel like, I don't know, Rodney Harrison would probably get in ahead of Earl just because he's a safety. He's been on the ballot as a semifinalist 4 times. In terms of Hall of Fame voters, that's probably somebody that they're going to put in ahead of Earl, I'm guessing.
Rodney Harrison's a Hall of Famer.
Darren Woodson, I mean, he's been on the ballot 9 times now. It feels like if he doesn't make it soon, it's not going to make it for him.
I'm glad you brought that one up. That'd be another one that I would say Marshawn over Darren Woodson.
Okay.
No disrespect to Darren Woodson, but
no, fine player. And the reason why he's been on the ballot that many times, but also a reason why he hasn't made it in after being on the ballot that many times.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Well, Earl was on the Josina Anderson podcast, her debut podcast. Adam, did you see this interview?
I did not. I didn't know that Earl had come out of hiding.
He did. He came out of hiding, and he must have some connection with Josina, just because for him to be her first guest on her inaugural podcast. A little tough to listen to in terms of they had a music bed underneath the entire interview. It was very annoying.
That's weird.
And Earl is still very weird. So if you just be prepared if you decide to go and listen to that interview or watch it, because he was actually in studio with Josina, and some of the things that came out of it, he talked about looking forward to being in the NFL Hall of Fame. So I think even before this announcement, he had that expectation, and it's not unfounded, right?
No.
He wants to coach in the NFL. He talked about trying to get back in the league and what that was like. He did have some regret to how things ended in Baltimore, fighting one of his teammates and then getting kicked out. And then he talked about just what it was like trying to get back in, both with the Texans and the Cardinals, and just kind of some of the expectations that he had. Because I think after a while, you're like, yeah, I'm Hall of Famer Earl Thomas. And, by that point of his career, they're like, yeah, but you need to come in and we want to try you out and see if you can still perform like Earl Thomas. And it sounded like he was having trouble with that transition. In fact, one of the other things that came out of it, he talked about how he's a better safety than Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu. So that I think that probably made some waves, especially with Ravens fans.
Yeah. That's I wouldn't agree with him there. Like, he's right up there, but he's definitely not better than any of those guys.
He also mentioned in the interview that he won 2 Super Bowls with Mahomes, and Josina didn't follow up on what exactly he meant by that. If he meant like he would have won it if he would have gone to the Chiefs rather than going to the Ravens, or if he just, because he talked about how much he follows football still. And, how the Chiefs have been like the team that he's rooted for, kind of. And so I don't know if he won 2 with them as in terms of a fan. It was a little bit confusing. She didn't follow up, but again, Earl Thomas still kind of weird. And so he hasn't changed.
Yeah. You keep doing you, Earl. I hope the personal life stuff all got sorted, because that got real weird there with the Ravens as well when he was over there. So we'll see how it goes. Even had Coach Mike kind of giving Earl a little shout out, talking about his time with Earl. So good to see that he's doing well and that he is on the short list for the Hall of Fame. Well deserved.
Yeah, definitely going to get in, and looking forward to the day he does. And also, a guy who is continuing to make a case, but probably like Anquan Bolden may not get there. But Tyler Lockett passed 13,000 all-purpose yards this past game against the Niners, which is good for 75th in NFL history in terms of all-purpose yards. So dude's up there. He only needs 400 yards to pass Steve Largent in terms of, again, all-purpose yards. So that's including his kick return, punt return yardage. And just for context, it leaves him about 1,400 yards right now as it stands behind Hall of Famer Devin Hester.
Wow. Well done by Tyler. I hope he gets that 400 yards here in the final last few games here, because I think this is it. I think this is the last year for Tyler.
Might be. Or he could have another year in him where he comes back and still does a little bit. I could see it.
Maybe. He'd have to tear up his contract.
Oh, he might. I don't know. But they did do a restructuring this offseason. Yeah, I'd have to take a look. We can save that for offseason talk. We don't need to get into Tyler Lockett postmortem Seahawks quite yet.
Yeah.
All right. What do you say we say thanks to our members of the flock, Adam?
Oh, man, forever and always.
They went to getintheflock.com, helping to support the show. And as a couple of our flockers found out this week, we posted in the Discord our link to come on the show, 3 in, 3 out. And we dropped that link in the chat there. That way, just a little bit of added benefit if you want to come on and say hi to us. Maybe we'll do more shows like that where we invite people on and have some fun. So Another reason to join, getintheflock.com. Of course, you can get all the shows ad-free via that website as well. And that includes shows like all the ones that are on the For the Hawker feed, like 3 and 3 Out and What If. So if you're saying, hey, I just want all my things in one place and I want them ad-free, you go to getintheflock.com.
You betcha. There's a price range for everybody. We absolutely operate on the value for value kind of model here. If we do give some value to your life with our little form of Seahawks talk here, we'd appreciate, a donation in kind. If you can't, if you're a little broke, it's okay. You got 2 years to be a freeloader. Like we allow that.
We've got our executive producers, DCH, Ryan Peterson, our live executive producer who came on during 3 in, 3 out. So we got to talk to Ryan live this week. JC Schilling in the 313th, as well as Jake Verdine. And coming in, Adam, with the 20-17 victory over the dirty San Francisco 49ers. Stephen Kirkpatrick comes in with the $20.17 donation via Zelle.
Dude, appreciate it as always. And the dubs are nice that way.
Pick'em League update time, Adam, because we got our win over the Niners, and I can't wait to find out if there was anybody silly enough to go ahead and pick against our Seahawks, knowing that 1, if they won, their pick would be changed, and 2, if they lost, their pick wouldn't be changed, and then they just have to take the L and eat it and I guess enjoy it, but not so much really. Let's bring in Evie. Dear underlings, some of you should not call yourself Seahawks fans. Hang your heads in shame. Picking against your own team is bad enough, but picking the 49ers instead is just downright despicable. W. Divining Road, Barry the WC, Brando Mitch, Killholt, Illegitimate Hamstring, all picked against the Seahawks. You don't deserve to celebrate the victory. Bronco Jared, you picked the 49ers too. They lost, by the way. Bad pick, unlucky, or as they say in slang terms near me, womp womp. Brandon, do not change their picks. They deserve to lose a pick. In fact, I take a few more correct picks away, but that may be too much. Ooh, I'd like where Evie's going with that one. Let's put a pin in that, Evie. Dad was very happy with the Seahawks beating the 49ers. He went off to my sister's cricket practice in a Seahawks jersey and hat, as there were 2 big 49ers fans on my sister's team, and he wanted to rub it in. Deep Balls won this week with a perfect week, 14 correct picks. Ooh, that's Jersey territory, Adam.
Yeah, it is.
Overall, Wirehawks is still out in front and opening up a bit of a gap on 118, 2 away from Fernando Tejada on 116, who is 1 ahead of Lock It Away and W. Divining Rod. Imagine if he'd picked the Seahawks. Womp womp. There are 3 more in 5th place, prize spots in 5th. Toonhawk, I Like to Touch My Bobo, and Kalispell MT Hawk on 114. Dad is 1 further back, and this week is mad at himself more than anything. I think, he also mentioned some refs who would have normally let Mahomes win. I don't know what he means, but I think he was implying that someone normally cheats and didn't this week. He just sounds bitter, to be honest. In the Brandon versus Adam contest, if you can call that anymore, Brandon, I try to be more fair and even, but you're making it so hard on me. Adam won this week with 11 correct picks, and Brandon was 2 back with 9, leaving it overall as 109 to 99, and I think 8-2-1 to Adam, but I've lost count. If there were a Simpsons meme, we'd have been saying, stop, he's already dead. Have a great week. And Brandon, when you make your picks, do better. Go Hawks. Love Evie.
Yeah, well, maybe you do need a little encouragement from the Overlord to get on track here, because to be honest, man, this is getting too easy.
Part of it is on me. When you're behind, you have to take some risks. And That's what I've been doing. And it just has not been paying off for me.
No. Hey, look, you're kind of having a season in Pick'em as I'm having on PNW Prop Stars, so I get it.
That's fine. Where am I at with 99? The thing is that I think at 109, like, you're not that far out of the top 5 even.
Really?
Well, what she said that people who are tied for 5th are at 114. You're only 5 spots out of that.
I'm going to pretend like I didn't hear that. Might change the way I do business,
Right. Well, there's a little bit of that. Although I am getting to the point to where I don't think a comeback is even possible.
I don't know. I've been known to have some really terrible weeks.
That's true. I guess I am. If I were to pull off 6 straight wins, I would be caught up.
Hey, man, you could be that team at going into the final stretch of the season here that nobody wants to see.
Well, we'll see about that. Well, thanks to Evie. And yes, the idea about potentially taking picks away, especially if it's against a division rival, I kind of like the sound of that. If people aren't hearing, if they're not getting the message, like, sometimes you have to break the stick out rather than the carrot.
Got to turn up the volume. Got to increase the pain. Yeah, I could see that.
Part of me just wants to take some picks away sometimes, just out of, especially a week like this.
Yeah.
Something to think about.
Oh, for sure.
How to do better and better at life.
All right, man. My do better this week is for Mike Sando for The Athletic. Mike Sando, he's been writing for the Seahawks for a heck of a long time. I actually really do respect much of the work that he puts out there. I think he does a damn good job overall. But this was one that kind of bothered me a little bit after I had gone through and looked at how the offense was operating and that sort of thing. And the title of the article is Seahawks offensive shift a sign of Mike McDonald asserting himself? And basically, the premise of the argument is that Ryan Grubb has really shifted more so to running formations. And, he goes through and he's got his little charts. And he finally gets to the chart where he's showing the under center percentage for this week. He's like, look, week 11, Seahawks were under a center 40% of the time. If you filter out the last 2 minutes of each half and where they're always passing it, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's just like Flathead Lake here in Montana. It's the largest freshwater, non-man-made lake west of the Mississippi. Like, how many caveats do you have to put on this and filters do you have to put on it to make it even appear that they have made some sort of shift to being a more physical football team and playing out of more run-type formations? This is propaganda. That's what I got out of this. It kind of made me mad because stats don't lie until Mike Sando makes them. So, Mike Sando, do better.
In some situations, you want to filter those out because under 2 minutes, the likelihood that you're going to be running the ball or even in a formation to run, relatively unlikely.
You can be under center and throw the football under 2 minutes. You can. But I think as a quarterback, when you're probably going to be throwing anyway and the defense knows that you're going to be throwing, I think those are probably situations where it's okay to line up predominantly in shotgun. Absolutely. But then to filter those out so that it doesn't because everybody else's overall numbers are skewed by their performance at the end of halves, right? In the way that they're doing stuff. And so, like, if you're comparing the percentages across the league of under center to shotgun, run pass, all that crap, right? That we talk about all the time. Like, well, if you filter out the last 2 minutes, then it's comparable to the rest of the league. It's like, yeah, except it's not.
Well, another point where you would probably want to filter out some of those results are up by 2 scores with 4 minutes left in the game. Because that's when majority of teams get most of their runs, is when they're leading by multiple scores and they're trying to run out the clock.
I don't think that's true. And secondly, why filter any of it out? Sounds like it all balances out to me.
Sure.
Like, yeah, it's just, it's one of those things where you see something like that and you're like, did we make a offensive shift? And then you go back and you rewatch the game for the third time and you start digging into the stats. You're like, oh, hell no. No, we didn't at all. Like, that's fun.
I think there was a shift. in terms of the number of times under center, because they were under center more times than they had been like the previous 3 games combined.
Again, if you go from 4 times to 6 times, that's not a shift in the offense. That's just you stumbled into a couple more. It almost feels like Grubb does it early in the games and like runs a little bit more early in the first quarter, just to be like, yeah, there you go. Get off my back.
Now I can get to my stuff.
Now we can drop back every single effing play.
Maybe. My do better this week are for the hosts of KNBR Radio, Adam, who spent 7 minutes, an entire 7 minutes, talking with Mike Pereira about the phantom timeout that happened when the 49ers lined up to punt late in the game on 4th and 6. Winers fans acting like this is an example of the NFL being rigged, because they just would have converted that 4th and 1 and ended the game right there, Adam, because it's obvious. You know, if they would have been appropriately penalized, the Seahawks, for calling a timeout in that situation, they would have gone for it on 4th and 1. Then they would have converted the 4th and 1, and then they could have just knelt it out and finished the game. But here's the thing you aren't thinking of, Weiner fan. If you really do believe it's rigged, then the officials, they would have just found a way to find a holding penalty to call on 4th and 1, and then it would have pushed you back to 4th and 11, and you would have lost the game anyway. So for spending 7 minutes talking about this phantom timeout call, do better.
I heard a little of this chatter, and I honestly couldn't believe it, because did the Seahawks get away with trying to call a second timeout when they shouldn't have been able to, and should it have been a 5-yard penalty? Yes, that all happened 100%. No dispute there. But again, you're not going to automatically pick up the 4th and 1. You know how I know that? Because it ain't 4th and Juwan, it's 3rd and Juwan. So you got nobody for 4th down. Okay, so there's that part. Secondly, look, I don't know how many times we get on this show, Brandon, where we get hosed by calls one way or the other, like, say, I don't know, Geno Smith sneaking for a first down on the second to the last drive of the game to continue a drive so that you can be in better position to win when they spot that a half yard short, or every single 3rd down for the 49ers in that game that was close to the sticks that half of them were short on. They gave them the first down. If you want to talk about calls and if and buts, like, we can do that all fucking day. But at the end of the day, you know what we don't do over here as our fan base is make damn excuses and be crybaby shit ass whiners about it. But what else should I expect from the Bay Area?
I just couldn't believe that they spent 7 minutes on the topic and asking Mike Pereira as if, like, well, why wouldn't they have thrown a flag then if they knew that he called timeout? But, like, can they just decide not to throw a flag in that situation? Why wouldn't they throw a flag? You know, if they should have thrown a flag, then how can they not throw a flag?
It seemed like in the moment, everybody was just kind of confused.
Yeah.
And they got it wrong. Like, it happens. I get crap on this show wrong all the time. I get crap wrong in my life wrong, like, every day. Like, it happens.
It's just that idea that, yeah, obviously if they would have gone, they would have gone for it on 4th and 1, because they asked Kyle, you know, what he would have done in that situation had it been 4th and 1. Oh yeah, I would have gone for it. Yeah. Well, the way the defense is playing, there's a pretty good opportunity that you get stuffed. And then the Seahawks have a much shorter field to drive down and get the score on. And then, Kyle, you know how much worse you look then for not punting in that scenario and making the Seahawks drive the entire length of the field? You're under a whole lot of heat then, too, because then it's your call that for going for it on 4th and 1. Of course, he probably still would have put it on his defense.
Well, it doesn't surprise me for 2 seconds that Kyle would throw the officials under the bus and be like, well, they didn't give us a call, so I couldn't go for it on 4th and 1 like I would have with all of my genius and stupid overbite.
On to Better at Life. And actually, before we get to Better at Life, Adam, I should probably call out, because last week I called out one of the Bears radio guys, producer, for refuting one of the reports by an ESPN host. I did see a message board out on Reddit that suggested that maybe it was Tyson Bagent's dad who was the source of this report about Caleb Williams, the team members wanting Caleb to be benched in favor of Tyson Bagent. And I would put out a retraction then for my do better last week if in fact it was if this ESPN host was using Tyson Bagent's dad as a source for his report.
Well, I have great news for you, Brandon, because you did not have to retract anything. You don't have to apologize for a damn thing. In fact, you can double down because it's not just the one ESPN dude that came out with this story. The story of players wanting Caleb benched, like that has been confirmed by multiple sources now.
Okay, good.
And you don't have to backtrack anything because you're 100% right and 0% wrong.
Well, I hope I'm continuing to be 0% wrong then in my Better at Life this week by giving it to Niners reporter Grant Cohn, Adam, as he was the one even ahead of the game against the Seahawks, getting under Coach Shanahan's skin in the press conference even before this loss to the Seahawks. He asked him some question about whether or not Brock Purdy, when he got up to the line, is able to make checks into different plays. It was some question about Brock's command of the offense or the ability to make changes at the line of scrimmage within the offense. Perfectly valid question. And Kyle,
not for crybaby Kyle.
Not for crybaby Kyle, who, when he got this question, he snarkily replies, "Have I not already answered your questions that your article is already written on?" Suggesting that Grant Cohn is just fishing for some kind of quote that can fit right into his pre-made, pre-written story, and he just needs another Kyle quote to throw in there. When you're Kyle Shanahan and you have one reporter, just one, that asks you challenging questions from time to time, and you can't handle that to the point to where you're in a press conference and you have that answer because you know that answer was already locked and loaded, waiting for some question from Grant Cohn to ask. Kyle Shanahan, he can't handle the pressure of one stinking reporter in this press conference, in the 49ers press room. So for Grant Cohn being that one guy to get under his skin, you are better at life than Skip Bayless.
My goodness. Have you ever seen a relationship 1v1 between a head coach and a specific reporter that has been this acrimonious? And not only that, but like, it's not like the reporters out there just like actively smearing him, like being like, oh yeah, he's cheating on his wife with these three people. Like he doesn't tip at restaurants. No. He doesn't wash his hands. It's not like anything like that. It's like, yeah, Kyle. So
here's a mirror for you to look in, Kyle. You're really bad in one-score games your entire career. In fact, I think one of the things that he pointed out on one of his shows that of coaches that have, like 40 plus games, something like that, 40 or more games of one-score matchups late in the game, like he's in the bottom 10 of all NFL coaches in one-score games.
He's terrible. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, he is so damn lucky that he is in the Bay Area in their media market where every reporter except for Grant gives him a safe space to answer his questions in. Because if he was over in like New York or Chicago or anything like that, can you imagine? Like he wouldn't last a season.
He wouldn't coach in one of those markets. I don't think he would take a job there.
No. And look, it's par for the course. His dad was the same way. Prickly bastard. Like when it came to all this stuff and an ego the size of Jupiter.
But he won a Super Bowl. Like he kind of deserved a little bit of an ego.
Oh, for sure. And he survived coaching for Al Davis. So you got to give him credit for that too. But crybaby shit ass Kyle is, dude, I don't blame every one of the, I was almost going to call them the faithful, but that's hilarious because their stadium was half empty the entire game. I could understand why half of them are just like, this guy's got to go. Mm-hmm. Like I couldn't have this.
Well, they may get their wish because it is starting to ramp up. There's definitely enough of the fan base that is, I guess I would be a little bit upset if I were Kyle because now Grant, I feel like, is making it his point to lead the charge of Niners fans to be like, oh, if you're going to go after me, I'm just going to continue like hammering my message then of all these situations that you've been bad in. And it's nothing personal. It's kind of personal now.
It's just the truth's a bitch, Kyle. And the truth doesn't look good for you. And if you want to make this personal, okay, I'm the one with the big ass microphone, right?
Uh-huh.
Like I'm not the one who's behind closed doors, locked in my safe space in Santa Clara the entire week and too afraid to answer a challenging question. Hats off to Grant, who, again, he seems like the furthest thing from a 49ers fan
he's no 49er.
Covering the team. And it's a delight. I appreciate him.
It's nice in some ways to have people who are fans covering the team, because it does give you an opportunity then to have a different perspective, but you need to have a little bit of balance there too, to offset some of that, I think.
100%. We're a gigantic Homer podcast. Buy 12s, 412s. Like there's for sure. I think it offers some value, but yeah, man, it would be kind of fun to have a Ram. That's funny. There's none of them. No Rams fans or reporters to bring in, or no, none of them either.
No. But I mean, Mike Sando, when he was here, it's not like he was a Seahawks fan, or Sheil Kapadia. He wasn't a Seahawks fan.
More of a Philly guy, right? Yeah. I don't know. Maybe you could bring in David Lombardi, the Kyle Shanahan's biggest cheerleader.
Oh, maybe. Yeah, he wouldn't want to cover our team.
Yeah, it's fine. You can stay home.
All right. I went Niners heavy in do better and better at life. Yeah, you have to have something that is, we can move on now from the Niners.
Hell yeah. Let's move on to some positive stuff from this coaching staff, man, because my better at life than Skip Bayless this week is for Aden Durde. Look, we really were all in a knot about the way the defense was playing the run game throughout the entire beginning of this year. The last two games, it's really started to come together. And as much as we talk about Mike and everything he does with the linebackers, and obviously this is his scheme and his baby, Aden Durde, like his bread and butter is defensive line. And it all starts and stops there when it comes to starting to stop the run game. And holy smokes, the defensive line has taken a leap in the last 2 weeks, especially last week with trying to defend a creative 49ers run game. And they were pushing dudes back, knifing in. They're holding their ground. The technique has gotten better. They don't seem to be, guessing at gaps. They're containing the edges better. It's just all of it looks so much tighter. And I think Durde should get some credit for that because, again, it's really his baby and he is the DC. So this is a monumental shift potentially for this team going forward if this defensive line can play like this. And we have to give Durde all the credit for it. And I'm just super appreciative. So to Aden Durde, man, you are better at life than Skip Bayless.
I love it. Yes. The defensive line, if I want to, we didn't even talk about Jonathan Hankins and his incredible interception as a defensive lineman. In fact, I have it here locked and loaded, Adam. Before we get out of here, we have to hear the call from Steve Rabel on Jonathan Hankins' interception.
Tight slot near side. Now in motion is Samuel back to the left. Purdy wants to throw out of his shotgun. Seattle blitzes. Ball is tipped up in the air and intercepted. And it's Hankins who picks it off. Witherspoon tips it, and Big Hank, all 300 and blah, blah, blah pounds of him, picks that ball off. And the defense runs to the near side end zone to the cameras, and the Seahawks have the first big break of the game with a pick of Purdy. A great play by two guys on that defense.
It almost doesn't even give Hankins enough credit. This is like an NBA tip where he is going up and instead of tipping it back to one of his teammates, which is, I guess, more what Witherspoon did, Witherspoon tips it up and Hankins goes up, high points it with his two hands, no body catch, coming down and taking away that pick from Purdy.
It was impressive. His best play of the year, and all set up by the brilliant play from Spoon, who just blanketed the holy hell out of CMC there. and watching some Niners stuff, watching them lament that they continued to throw at 21 for like no reason is super fun. And for Hankins to come down with that in a big moment, help get us some points there. That's awesome, man. It was exciting. Thank you to the defense. That made my life feel a lot better. And I think I'm going to take these 200 blah, blah, blah or so pounds and maybe go have some dinner, man.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
go Hawks.
Go Hawks.